On Monday, the 22nd of June 2020, Apple CEO Tim Cook announced in its annual Worldwide Developers Conference that Apple would be transitioning to its own chips. Now, this implies that Apple will be cutting ties with Intel and proceed to develop their own chips. Apple deciding to make its own processors automatically means the end of a 15-year relationship with Intel. Apple had switched from IBM Motorola's PowerPC processors to Intel's x86 architecture in 2006. However, the company has decided to cut ties. The company, which according to Gartner, estimate ranks as the fourth largest PC maker in the world. They also announced 3 new Mac computers which are not entirely different in looks from its predecessors. A MacBook Air, 13-inch MacBook Pro, and a Mac Mini were all announced. Apple declared their plans to power the computers with Apple's M1 chip instead of Intel processors. In all honesty, Apple's switch to its own silicon chips and away from Intel's processor has been expected for years. CEO Tim Cook called it a historic day for the Mac. That we argue with you on, sir. Now, Apple's switch implies the company no longer had to wait for Intel to manufacture processors. This will enable Apple to stand out from their competitors, such as Microsoft, Dell, and HP, using Intel's processor. Intel's comment? We believe Intel-powered PCs like those based on 11th gen Intel Core mobile processors provide global customers the best experience in the areas they value most, as well as the most open platform for developers, the multinational corporation stated. The question on everyone's mind right now is why Apple decided to call it quits with Intel. Welcome back to your favorite channel, guys. Today we're going to find out why Apple decided to make its own chip and end a 15-year relationship with Intel. We will also do a short analysis of what this means for Apple. But before we kick it in, make sure you like, share, and comment. And if you're a first-time viewer, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay updated. Let's get to it. More on Apple chips. Apple will be switching from Intel's x86 architecture processor to Apple's own ARM-based chip. Now, the chip designs are based on a UK company's design that is headquartered in Cambridge. But we're not just here for the design, certainly not. Let's talk about performance and ability. Apple promises that the ARM-based chips will deliver a more robust performance without having to sacrifice battery life. Now, this is an impressive feature if it is true. Apple does have a reputation for offering battery life for efficiency. However, a 360 turn to more potent performance and less power consumption would mean using your laptop for as long as you can and being away from the plug. Another improvement, and undoubtedly the most significant addition to the silicon ARM-based chips, is the capacity to perform for iOS and iPadOS apps to run on macOS in the future. Now, this implies that the ARM-powered chips will use a single processor architecture. You'll therefore be able to use iOS and iPadOS apps on your desktop. Most apps will just work, Apple says. Now, alongside these improvements is the additional security, just like on mobile phones. Furthermore, the company is upgrading the graphical performance. Apple is working hard to create features unique to Mac by designing its own SoC range for Macs. Now, to support its new silicon chips, Apple has updated all of their Pro apps across all levels. Adobe is fully operational on the new chip, as well as Photoshop, Lightroom, and a 5GB Photoshop PSD with animations running smoothly on Apple's new Macs, all created by Adobe. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Office updates are fully functional on the new Mac processor. Additionally, the company said Microsoft was working on creating an optimized version of Office. Now, to access these Pro apps, developers will have to update their apps. Apple's Senior Vice President of Software Engineering says that the vast majority of developers can get their apps up and running in a matter of days. To ease the process, Apple will make available a new version of Rosetta, Rosetta 2, the program which will ensure that apps yet to upgrade will still have the ability to work on the ARM-powered chips. Overall, the ARM technology-based chips are more efficient and offer more battery life. Indeed, it is a historic day for Apple. However, Tim Cook stated that the company would continue to support older models. This implies that there are Intel-based Macs yet to come out. The first system expected to come out with a silicon chip is the 13-inch MacBook Pro. We expect to ship our first Mac with Apple Silicon by the end of the year, the Apple CEO added. Why Apple cut ties with Intel. Apple had first employed the services of PowerPC to power its Macs. PowerPC was a computing architecture created by Motorola, IBM, and Apple itself. In 2005, Apple announced a switch to Intel chips. The then Apple CEO Steve Jobs said, "We think Intel's technology will help us create the best personal computers for the next 10 years. The company fully transitioned all Macs to Intel chips by 2007 and did employ Intel service for 10 years and then 5 more years. So why did the fourth largest PC vendor cut ties and decide to make its own chips? Here's why. Intel was starting to fall behind. Seeing Intel, a company considered to be the granddaddy and earliest members in Silicon Valley, fall is very sad, but it is a sad reality. Intel has faced some stagnancy issues in times past, and this is starting to put off investors. Apple has said that its new Mac would be using 5nm transistors. Now here's the thing, the more transistor that can fit into space, the more efficient the chip is. Sadly, Intel is currently shipping 10nm transistors. Furthermore, Intel has delayed the announcement of 7nm transistors. Intel CEO Bob Swan had said that a defect mode was found in the 7nm process, which caused degradation issues. The company announced a delay till 2022 and discussed potential outsourcing of the chip manufacturing company. Now, on the other hand, Apple uses 5nm transistors in its new ARM-powered M1 chip that Intel is currently unable to provide. Intel's had some challenges over the last couple of years on the manufacturing side, and I think those challenges have opened a window of opportunity for ARM-based designs to come in. Apple is one of the best ARM-based processor designers out there, John Aronson said. Now, with the challenges that Intel has had moving to 10nm and 7nm, while foundries like TSMC and Samsung have pushed more aggressively, it has taken one of Intel's key advantages and leveled the playing field a bit, the senior director of Gartner Technology added. Less power consumption, better battery life. During the launch event, Apple underscored how the chip enabled high performance and stronger battery. All Apple users are familiar with the low battery performance of its phone and tablets, but Apple boasted in its event how the silicon chips are way better performers than Intel's chips. Apple said that the chip does not evaluate based on raw performance, but on performance per watt. Additionally, the company explained how the chip could, with one charge, withstand 15 hours of non-stop web browsing. That approximates almost 30% better than Intel-based Macs. Apple has always wanted to be independent. This is probably the most crucial reason Apple decided to make its own chips: dependency. Tim Cook said earlier in the event launch that Apple's long-term strategy of owning and controlling the primary technologies behind the products we make. That perfectly sums it up. Primarily, Apple chose to cut ties with Intel so it can be in control of its own technology. Apple thinks they can innovate faster than the standard business model of Intel or Qualcomm doing the development on chips, and then they build on top of it, a spokesperson said. Now, this breakup also enabled Apple to distance itself from companies currently using Intel's processors, including Microsoft, HP, and Dell. Possible risks. Despite attaining a historic computing milestone, separation from Intel raises two questions that also pose risks. 1. What happens to the Intel-based Macs that are still in the pipeline? Will people purchase these Macs or simply wait for the new ARM-based chip Macs to be released? 2. For users to enjoy these improvements, they would have to upgrade. Will users instantly upgrade and activate the new Pros app update? Or will there be nervousness and lack of trust in the new Mac? In conclusion, Apple chose to cut ties and build its own chip because of Intel's stagnancy and its long dependency desire. However, the separation has less financial implication on Intel. It is a single-digit hit for Intel. In our opinion, the break is more of a reputation hit. And there we have it, guys. Do you think Apple took the right step in deciding to make its own chips? Should Apple not have ended the 15-year relationship with Intel? Share your opinions in the comments section. We'll be on the lookout for the best responses. Until next time, stay safe.